Today, we're going straight back to the VHS era and the B-movie chaos of the early 90s, right into full moon features. Thanks to the viewer who suggested this topic in the comments. And let's get started. You probably already know this one. It's hard to talk about Full Moon without mentioning Puppet Master. The story follows a group of psychics who arrive at a remote hotel after receiving a strange message from an old colleague, only to find themselves hunted by a set of living, murderous puppets. It became one of the defining setups of the VHS era. The film became Full Moon's first major project after Charles Band left Empire Pictures and started the new studio. It was originally meant for theaters, but Band realized the movie would make more money on video, so Puppet Master went straight to tape in 1989, and that decision paid off. The puppets, the effects, the tone, everything here became the blueprint for what Full Moon wanted to be. Low-budget but ambitious genre entertainment made for the home video market. The legacy speaks for itself. Puppet Master turned into one of the most prolific killer puppet franchises ever made, spawning sequels, prequels, spin-offs, a crossover with demonic toys, comics, a reboot, and even a video game. It quickly became one of Full Moon's defining titles and one of the most recognizable VHS staples of its time. Meridian stands out because it shows Full Moon experimenting with something more atmospheric than their usual output. Instead of leaning on effects or gimmicks, this one blends gothic romance, dark fantasy, and a curse story. Essentially a moody, erotic variation on Beauty and the Beast. Catherine travels to Italy to take over her family's castle, and together with her friend Gina invites a traveling circus to dinner. The night takes a darker turn when she's drawn into a twisted triangle involving twin brothers, whose curse turns one of them into a beast. From a production standpoint, the film is notable because Charles Band directed it himself and shot it on location in an Italian castle, relying heavily on location photography and a more dreamlike tone. It's not the strongest film in the Full Moon catalog, but given the budget and the studio's resources at the time, it delivers more atmosphere and craft than you might expect. Continuing our list, we come to Dollman. The plot follows Brick Bardo, a police officer from the planet Arturos. During a chase, he and a criminal crash land in the South Bronx, where both are shrunk to a fraction of their normal height. Bardo ends up helping a local woman fighting neighborhood gangs, while his enemy teams up with a small-time drug dealer, turning their off-world conflict into a street-level one. The film was directed by Albert Pyun, whose background in low-budget sci-fi and action shaped its pace and tone. Tim Thomerson, by then already well known to Full Moon fans thanks to Trancers, a sci-fi film series that began in 1984 under Empire Pictures, plays Bardo with the same rugged deadpan style. After the film's release, the character appeared in a short tag at the end of Bad Channels and later returned in the crossover Dollman vs. Demonic Toys. Full Moon and NBC also developed a TV pilot, but it wasn't picked up, and a planned sequel discussed in the late 90s never moved forward. Stuart Gordon's films are among the strongest in the Full Moon catalog, and The Pit and the Pendulum is a clear example. Since we just talked about Poe adaptations on the channel, it's fun to look at how Gordon takes on the same story Roger Corman filmed back in 1961. Not by following Poe directly, but by using the original tale as the starting point for a much larger narrative. The film takes place in 1492 Spain, where a young woman is arrested by the Grand Inquisitor Torquemada. Her husband tries to rescue her, but Torquemada turns his attention to him as well, preparing to use his latest invention, a massive, razor-edged pendulum. Because Poe's original story is short, Gordon incorporates elements from other works to build out the story, and the additions blend cleanly with the main storyline. Lance Henriksen is the standout here, playing Torquemada with enough intensity to avoid slipping into parody. Combined with strong atmosphere and production design, the film ends up feeling more ambitious than most early 90s direct-to-video releases. Subspecies is the first entry in what would become one of Full Moon's longest-running horror franchises. 4 sequels, a spin-off, and a revival decades later. The film marked a shift toward a more straightforward gothic horror tone, helped in large part by director Ted Nicolau and the decision to shoot entirely on location in Romania. The story follows 3 American students, Michelle, Mara, and Lillian, who arrive in Romania for a research trip and quickly find themselves caught in a violent feud between 2 vampire brothers, the noble Stefan and the monstrous Radu. The Romanian castles, streets, local extras, and the mix of traditional Gothic style and handmade effects create an atmosphere that feels both grounded and delightfully old school. Anders Hov's performance as Radu is the film's defining element. Part rock star, part insect, and entirely monstrous, he instantly became one of Full Moon's most iconic characters. Radu softens in the later sequels, but in this first film he's pure, relentless evil, and easily one of the most memorable screen vampires of the era. The original franchise seemed to end in 1998, but it eventually returned with Subspecies 5, Bloodrise, a prequel that premiered in 2023, with Anders Hov once again playing Radu and Ted Nicolau back as director. Dr. Mordrid is Full Moon's one and only attempt at a superhero movie. Charles Band grew up obsessed with Marvel Comics, so it's no surprise that this project ended up feeling a lot like his take on Doctor Strange, just without the official rights. Jeffrey Combs plays Anton Mordrid, a wizard who has spent the last century guarding Earth. His enemy Cabal escapes into our world searching for the Philosopher's Stone, planning to open a gateway for demons. As Cabal leaves victims behind, Mordrid becomes entangled with a police researcher who lives next door and detectives who misread the situation badly enough to arrest him, leaving him without his protective amulet just as the threat escalates. Charles Band and his father Albert directed the film together, one of the few times they shared credit. And as always, the budget is modest. But Dr. Mordrid uses that limitation well, leaning into an esoteric vibe. Oblivion is another not-so-typical film for Full Moon. It isn't part of a big creature-led horror run. It has no killer puppets or tiny monsters, and it plays more like a sci-fi western comedy. The story takes place in the frontier town of Oblivion, where an evil alien outlaw named Red Eye kills the local marshal and takes over. The townspeople can't stop him, until the marshal's estranged pacifist son, Zack, returns, bringing along a native companion he once saved from a giant twin-tailed scorpion. The world itself is a mashup of Old West and future tech. Prospectors wear calculator watches, aliens drink in saloons, and six-shooters still rule even if nobody seems to reload them. Practical and creature effects, from regenerating limbs to odd little throat-biting monsters, give it extra texture. It's not Full Moon's most famous title, but as a goofy, energetic sci-fi western, Oblivion is one of the more distinctive corners of their VHS era. And let me finish this list with what I think is one of Full Moon's strongest films, Castle Freak. It's a Lovecraft-inspired project from Stuart Gordon, who had already proven how well he could handle Lovecraft's material back in the Empire Pictures days with Reanimator and From Beyond. Here he reunites with Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton again, but the tone is very different. This time there's no humor, no pulp energy. Castle Freak is bleak, restrained, and at times genuinely disturbing. Jeffrey Combs plays John Riley, a recovering alcoholic and grieving father. Together with his wife and blind daughter, he moves into an Italian castle inherited from his estranged aunt, a duchess. What the family doesn't realize is that they've also inherited the duchess's mutilated son, a tortured prisoner she kept locked in the dungeon for years. The creature design is grotesque and memorable. The atmosphere is heavy and gothic, and the tension builds quickly. It really does feel like one of the darkest films Full Moon ever released, and it definitely deserves more attention.